Have you ever heard of Princess Tamar, the only documented daughter of King David? Her tale is not one of royal splendor, but a tragic story of family pain and deep lessons. A princess deceived, a royal family torn apart by silence and vengeance. Yet, through tragedy, Tamar's story reflects struggles that still trouble families today. So, what exactly happened to this young woman? And why does her story still hold power after thousands of years? Let's uncover the truth together.
If you found this video valuable, please give it a like. The YouTube algorithm favors videos with more engagement, so help me reach more people with this story. Much love to you.
Picture a young princess with an innocent heart stepping through the cold, silent corridors of the palace. Her footsteps echo as she approaches her half-brother's chamber, full of trust and hope. But inside, she does not find warmth. She walks into a nightmare that will change her forever. The most horrifying part? The silence of those who should have protected her. To truly grasp the weight of this tragedy, we must go back in time, over 1,000 years before Christ, to the city of Jerusalem. At its center stood the royal palace, home to King David, Israel's greatest monarch, a man admired for his wisdom, bravery, and poetic soul. Yet this is not a story of his greatness. It is the story of his greatest failure as a father. David's kingdom flourished, his power grew, and Israel prospered. But within the palace, his family was entangled in complexity. With multiple wives and children from different relationships, tensions and rivalries grew. His eldest son, Amnon, was the heir to the throne. Absalom, charming and strong, lived alongside his sister Tamar, all while family conflicts brewed beneath the surface. Tamar's story is a tragedy, but it also serves as a lesson in leadership and responsibility. How could a king so wise in ruling a nation fail to protect his own household? How could a father known for his emotional depth in poetry remain silent when his daughter suffered? Most importantly, what lessons can we take from these failures to protect our own families? We will analyze the events that led to David's family's downfall, not just to understand history, but to recognize warning signs that could help families today. Together, we will explore 3 crucial lessons from this story, lessons that might prevent future tragedies. Because while times change, the conflicts and struggles within families remain eerily familiar. Tamar's story is not just one of power, betrayal, and consequences. It is a chilling reminder of how silence can be more destructive than violence itself.
In 2 Samuel 3, David's rise to power was marked not only by military conquests, but also by the growth of his family. In Hebron, he had 6 sons, with 6 different women: Amnon by Ahinoam, Chileab by Abigail, Absalom by Maacah, Adonijah by Haggith, Shephatiah by Abital, and Ithream by Eglah. As he moved to Jerusalem, his household expanded further, forming a web of complex relationships.
Envision the grand stone corridors of the royal palace, where royal children of different mothers grow up surrounded by ambition and rivalry. Each child not only bears the burden of being a descendant of a mighty king, but also carries the hopes and expectations of their own mother. Against this backdrop, the story of Tamar, the beautiful princess and half-sister of Absalom, becomes a tragic turning point in David's family, as vividly recorded in 2 Samuel 13. On the surface, life in the palace seemed to continue as usual, flowing with a sense of routine. David, a king who overcame external threats, divided his attention between ruling the kingdom and caring for his family. His reign stretched from Dan to Beersheba, symbolizing Israel's strength and unity. Yet beneath this image of peace, internal tensions simmered. A royal household filled with wives and half-brothers was inevitably rife with competition. Each prince gathered his own followers, pursued his own ambitions, and braced for unavoidable confrontations. Amnon, the eldest son, possessed both privilege and authority, while Absalom, with his charm and strong will, showed early signs of rebellion. Tamar, a princess raised in seclusion, lived a sheltered life, yet she was tragically caught in the midst of her brother Amnon's misplaced desire. Another pivotal character in this tale is Jonadab, the nephew of David and a close confidant of Amnon. Described as an intelligent yet scheming man, his presence acted as a catalyst, turning hidden family conflicts into irreversible disaster. He represents those who manipulate fragile relationships for their own benefit, especially in families already vulnerable to division. Tamar's tragic fate is not just a story of misguided actions, but a lesson in family responsibility. As Proverbs 22:3 states, "The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty." The forces that led to this tragedy, her isolation, the absence of parental supervision, and the influence of corrupt advisors, serve as warnings for anyone responsible for guiding a family. Consumed by the responsibilities of governing his kingdom, and perhaps blinded by the illusion of harmony in his household, David failed to perceive the growing tensions among his children. The same man who successfully navigated the complexities of ruling a nation overlooked the crises unfolding within his own family. Deuteronomy 6:6-7 emphasizes that parents must instruct their children at all times, when at home, when walking, when lying down, and when rising. Yet, amid the demands of leadership and the intricacies of a vast family, David neglected this sacred duty. The elements of a tragedy were gradually falling into place, not only devastating a young woman, but also setting in motion a chain of events that would push the kingdom into turmoil. It all began with a lustful gaze and a sinister scheme. In 2 Samuel 13:2, the Bible describes Amnon, David's firstborn son, as being so infatuated with his half-sister Tamar that he became physically ill. His obsession was not one of brotherly affection, but a twisted desire that consumed him and led him to lose all reason. As the heir to the throne, Amnon was used to having his every wish fulfilled. However, this time, his fixation was on someone he could never rightfully have. The situation worsened when Jonadab entered the scene. In 2 Samuel 13:3, he is described as a cunning yet deceitful man. Noticing Amnon's distress, Jonadab inquired with apparent concern, "Why do you, the king's son, look so worn out every morning? Why don't you tell me what's wrong?" This seemingly innocent question opened the door to a sinister plot. Instead of advising Amnon to abandon his wrongful desires, Jonadab devised a manipulative scheme. He suggested, "Lie down and pretend to be ill. When your father comes to visit, tell him you wish for Tamar to come and prepare food for you." This was a simple yet cruel plan, designed to exploit the family traditions of that time, where women were often expected to care for the sick. Jonadab, with his cold and calculated mind, set up the perfect trap. He understood that neither David nor Tamar would question what appeared to be a harmless request from an ill brother. Once the plan was put into action, Amnon's depravity was exposed. He not only shamelessly deceived his father, but also manipulated and tricked his sister to achieve his dark desires. This incident is a stark reminder of how trust within a family can be ruthlessly abused when a lack of vigilance allows sinister schemes to take root. In 2 Samuel 13:6, the Bible recounts how Amnon, under Jonadab's influence, faked an illness to execute his wicked plan. When King David visited him, Amnon made a seemingly innocent request. He wanted his sister Tamar to come and prepare special bread in his presence so he could eat from her hand. To David, this request appeared entirely normal, unaware that his trust in family bonds was inadvertently putting his daughter in grave peril. This moment is one of the most tragic in the story, emphasizing David's failure to recognize the warning signs. Proverbs 27:12 states, "The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty." Yet, the warning signals were overlooked. Amnon's unhealthy obsession, Jonadab's suspicious advice, and the unusual nature of the request. This was not just about desire, but about power, manipulation, and a perversion of familial bonds. As the eldest son of the king, Amnon used his status to deceive both his father and his sister. Tamar, innocent and devoted, never imagined that her act of kindness would lead her into a carefully laid trap. She dutifully prepared the bread for Amnon, unaware of his sinister intentions. But when she brought the food to him, he suddenly seized her and uttered chilling words. "Come, lie with me, my sister." This horrifying moment shattered all moral boundaries. Tamar immediately protested, "No, my brother, do not violate me, for such a thing is not done in Israel. Do not commit this evil act." Her words reflected extraordinary wisdom and bravery, as she did everything in her power to stop the tragedy, appealing to ethics, citing the law, and even suggesting that Amnon ask King David's permission in a desperate attempt to stall him. But Amnon was blinded by his obsession. He ignored her pleas, and because he was stronger, he overpowered her and violated her. This monstrous act did not just destroy Tamar's dignity, it tore apart the fabric of their family. As recorded in 2 Samuel 13:14, Amnon's so-called love turned into loathing. In a heartless display of cruelty, he cast Tamar out, not only deepening her suffering but also publicly disgracing her. Tamar left, devastated beyond words. She tore her royal garment, symbolizing her lost purity, covered herself in ashes, and wept bitterly as she walked away. This was more than personal sorrow. It was a cry for justice, for the protection that she had been denied. When David learned of the atrocity, his reaction was anger, a natural response, but an insufficient one. The Bible does not record any punishment for Amnon, no justice for Tamar, no attempt to comfort her. Some suggest David was paralyzed by guilt from his past sins, or caught between his role as a father and a king. But regardless of the reason, his silence led to devastating consequences. A broken Tamar, an unpunished Amnon, and a growing fury within Absalom, who would not let this crime be forgotten. This story is one of silence and abandonment, proving that when those with power fail to act, the consequences extend far beyond one individual, shaking entire families and even kingdoms. David's silence resonates as a painful lesson for generations to come. When those in power fail to act against injustice, especially within their own families, the impact extends beyond the immediate victims, setting off a chain of tragic consequences. After her assault, Tamar lived in isolation, finding refuge in her brother Absalom's house. Her once bright future was now reduced to loneliness and trauma. The palace, meant to protect her, became the origin of her suffering, while David, the one who should have defended her, remained silent, enabling the injustice through inaction. David's lack of response not only denied Tamar justice, but also laid the groundwork for an even greater catastrophe. As Ecclesiastes 8:11 warns, because the sentence against an evil deed is not executed speedily, the heart of the children of man is fully set to do evil. David's reluctance to act gave Absalom time to foster his resentment and plot revenge. According to 2 Samuel 13:22, Absalom said nothing to Amnon, whether good or bad, yet his heart burned with hatred for what Amnon had done to Tamar. Unlike David's passivity, Absalom's silence was strategic. He concealed his anger for 2 years, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. 2 years later, as recorded in 2 Samuel 13:23, Absalom set his plan in motion. He hosted a sheep-shearing festival, a time for celebration and feasting. Using this gathering as a cover, he invited all of David's sons, and even the king, knowing David might decline. When the king hesitated to send Amnon, Absalom insisted, disguising his true motive with an innocent request. If not, please let my brother Amnon go with us. In reality, this was a death sentence for Amnon. At the feast, when Amnon was intoxicated, Absalom commanded his servants with chilling resolve, "When Amnon is drunk, kill him." The act of vengeance was swift and ruthless. The rest of David's sons, terrified for their lives, mounted their mules and fled, leaving behind a royal celebration turned into a scene of bloodshed. News reached David in a state of panic. Reports initially claimed Absalom had killed all of his sons. The rumors spread rapidly, magnifying the horror. But Jonadab, the very man who had facilitated Tamar's downfall, stepped forward to reassure David, "Not all the princes are dead, my lord, only Amnon." Ironically, the same man who had set the tragedy in motion now played the role of the voice of reason. David's grief over Amnon's death was overwhelming. He tore his clothes, collapsed onto the ground, and was consumed by sorrow and regret. Yet, in that moment, one truth stood clear. His earlier silence had paved the way for all these misfortunes. From Tamar's devastation to Amnon's murder and Absalom's estrangement, everything stemmed from his failure to act when it mattered most. This tragedy is not only the cost of silence, but a stark warning. Sometimes, failing to act causes greater damage than any wrong action ever could. The cycle of violence and silence in David's family was far from over. After murdering Amnon, Absalom fled to Geshur and lived in exile for 3 years. During this time, as recorded in 2 Samuel 13:39, King David, despite having come to terms with Amnon's death, longed to see Absalom. A father's heart, even in the wake of fratricide and betrayal, still yearned for his son.
This sequence of events strongly reinforces a crucial lesson. Violence breeds violence, and remaining silent in the face of injustice can lead to far more devastating consequences. As Galatians 6:7 states, "Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. Whatever a man sows, he will also reap." The cost of David's silence after Tamar's attack is now undeniable. One daughter left broken, one son dead, another in exile, and a fractured royal household. These tragic outcomes call into question David's leadership within his own family. The man who fearlessly defeated Goliath and ruled Israel with wisdom fell short when his own household needed him the most. His first major flaw was a lack of foresight. As a leader, he should have been alert to warning signs. 1 Samuel 16:7 reminds us, "The Lord does not see as man sees. Man looks on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks on the heart." Ironically, David, known for his vision and insight, failed to perceive the turmoil growing within his own home, Amnon's obsession, Absalom's smoldering resentment, and Tamar's distress. His second failure was his inability to act in times of crisis. When Tamar was dishonored, the scriptures tell us that David was furious, but he took no steps to rectify the situation. As king, he had both the authority and responsibility to enforce justice. Proverbs 21:15 teaches, "When justice is done, it brings joy to the righteous, but terror to evildoers." Yet David's inaction allowed suffering to deepen and revenge to take root. Perhaps David's most damaging mistake was letting his past sins dictate his response.
Some scholars suggest that he refrained from punishing Amnon because of his own guilt regarding Bathsheba. In 2 Samuel 12:10, the prophet Nathan declared, "The sword will never depart from your house." But instead of using this as a warning to take decisive action, David allowed himself to be paralyzed by remorse, letting silence and passivity guide his response to family tragedy. The fallout from these failures was a chain of escalating disasters: Tamar's disgrace, Amnon's murder, Absalom's exile. Absalom's revenge was not only an act of personal anger, but a direct consequence of David's failure to address the injustice. This tore his family apart and ultimately destabilized his kingdom. David's story serves as a powerful warning. Silence is not a remedy, and conflicts must be addressed, not ignored. Whether as a father or a leader, one cannot evade the duty to protect and uphold justice. Overlooking warning signs and failing to intervene in crises doesn't just affect the present, it leaves a painful legacy for the future. In 1 Kings 1:6, the Bible describes Adonijah. His father had never rebuked him by asking, "Why do you behave as you do?" This highlights a pattern of passive leadership, which allowed disorder to grow unchecked in David's household. His avoidance of difficult confrontations left a void that violence and vengeance quickly filled. Ecclesiastes 8:11 warns, "When the punishment for a crime is not swiftly executed, people's hearts are filled with schemes to do evil." David's failure to act against Amnon's wrongdoing indirectly emboldened Absalom to take justice into his own hands.
A critical but often overlooked failure of David was his inability to create an environment of trust and open communication within his family. When Tamar was violated, she had nowhere to turn for justice. When Absalom plotted revenge, no efforts were made to mediate and prevent further bloodshed.
Proverbs 29:15 states, "The rod and correction give wisdom, but a child left to himself brings shame to his mother." The lack of consistent and loving discipline in David's household created a chaotic environment where each child followed their own path, unfortunately, often toward destruction. David's leadership failures go beyond history. They serve as valuable lessons for anyone in authority, particularly within families. When those with responsibility choose silence or inaction, the consequences can persist for generations. His family's tragedy offers deep and practical lessons that remain relevant today. Lesson 1: Proactive awareness. As 1 Peter 5:8 warns, "Be sober-minded. Be watchful." In today's digital world where children are exposed to online dangers and unhealthy relationships, this vigilance is more important than ever. It does not mean excessive control, but being actively engaged, recognizing behavioral changes, social withdrawal, or concerning relationships.
Lesson 2: Taking action against injustice. David's silence following Tamar's suffering shows that ignoring wrongdoing is a form of complicity. James 4:17 teaches, "Anyone who knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin."
Families today must foster open communication, establish firm boundaries, and act immediately when they suspect abuse or wrongdoing. Lesson 3: Breaking the cycle of violence. David's family suffered from generational cycles of desire, violence, and revenge. Galatians 6:7-8 reminds us, "Whatever a person sows, that they will also reap." To break this pattern, families must recognize toxic relationships, promote forgiveness while ensuring justice, and create spaces where emotions can be expressed safely. Lesson 4: Leading with presence and purpose. Proverbs 22:6 teaches, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." Leadership in the family is not just about being physically present, but also emotionally and spiritually engaged, setting moral standards, enforcing discipline with love, and being a role model. David's family tragedy serves as a reminder. Silence and passivity allow problems to grow. Learning from past mistakes urges us to take action now, to protect our loved ones and build a strong foundation for the future. Even today, these lessons are highly relevant, especially in raising strong and resilient families. Being truly present in a child's life is key, not just watching from the sidelines, but actively demonstrating values through actions. Regular family bonding, emotional support, and ensuring the safety of the vulnerable remain essential. Another critical lesson is the courage to speak out. Fear, shame, or the pressure to maintain a perfect image should never prevent families from protecting one another. As Ephesians 5:11 states, "Have nothing to do with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them." Families must create safe environments where difficult truths can be shared and seek external support when needed. To put these principles into practice, here are concrete steps that every family can take today. Encourage open communication in the family. Don't wait for issues to arise. Make family discussions a regular practice. Deuteronomy 6:7 says, "Talk about these commands when you sit at home, when you walk along the road, when you lie down, and when you get up." A culture of open conversation makes children feel secure enough to share their thoughts and struggles. Implement a family safety strategy. Monitor your children's social interactions in a healthy, responsible manner. Set boundaries for social media, establish emergency protocols, and ensure that all family members know critical contact information. A well-thought-out plan helps safeguard children and fosters a sense of security for the entire household. Regularly seek professional advice. Just as we care for our physical health with routine checkups, family therapy or counseling can prevent potential emotional and psychological issues from growing into major problems. Addressing concerns early strengthens the family's ability to handle future difficulties. Build strong family relationships. Engage in shared meals, group activities, and spiritual reflection or prayer. Commemorate special occasions and achievements to reinforce love, appreciation, and a sense of belonging. Stay prepared and watchful. While no family is perfect, preparation equips them to face challenges more effectively. Proverbs 24:3-4 reminds us, "Through wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established. By knowledge its rooms are filled with precious and pleasant riches." Preparation provides both protection from adversity and a foundation for growth. The tragic story of Tamar demonstrates that silence can carry unbearable consequences. Taking initiative, showing courage, and genuinely caring for one another are key to fostering a safe and loving family environment. These principles, when consistently applied, help families navigate hardships and build a future anchored in trust. The story of Tamar, Amnon, and David is not merely an ancient narrative. It reflects the challenges that families today continue to experience. Silence devastated an entire royal household, and the same pattern threatens families in modern times. But unlike Tamar, we do not have to suffer alone. Unlike David, we can take action instead of being paralyzed by regret. And unlike Amnon and Absalom, we can choose to break destructive cycles rather than repeat them. Isaiah 61:3 declares, "He will give them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of despair." This promise of restoration is available to every family willing to step out of silence and inaction. It is a challenge to embrace renewal, boldness, and healing in our closest relationships. The question remains, will we follow David's path of silence, Or will we step up as defenders and change makers in our families? The cost of silence is too high to ignore. Unspoken words and postponed actions don't just affect one generation. They create ripples that shape many generations to come. It is time to break the silence. Only by speaking up, acting decisively, and protecting our loved ones can we establish lasting peace and restoration. Breaking the silence is more than just preventing tragedy. It is the foundation for hope, love, and family strength. Tamar's story is not just a relic of the past, it is a wake-up call for the present. It speaks to the power of responsibility, the dangers of silence, and the importance of forgiveness. If this story resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe for more powerful historical lessons. Also, share this message so more people can learn from Tamar's experience. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.